Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next interview. Today, I have with me Katie Turner from The Fake Vegan. And what we want to do today is not only hear from Katie as far as her journey, her experience, and really how she's transitioned from corporate America life to starting her own business and what that means to her, but also the work that she's doing as a plant based certified coach, how she's out in the world not only helping communities at large, but also helping the Black community, bringing holistic, sustainable advice to our community, as well as helping people along the way as they're making transitions, making decisions, and really making sure that people have the support they need to choose the right health path for them. So I'm excited to not only introduce you to Katie, everyone who's listening and watching, but also give maybe get a little insight into her journey and how maybe the journey that she's been on, how it can inspire us all. So first off, thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Stephanie. I'm so excited to be here, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. So let's get started with a little bit of just background information. Let's give everyone a little bit of understanding of where you are today in your journey. I know we bring on different guests, who have vegan backgrounds. We have some guests that have, vegetarian backgrounds and so forth. So maybe give everyone a little bit of perspective on where you are today, and where you focus and how you're helping people in the world.
Yeah, so I am plant-based. I've been plant-based for over 10 plus years. I kind of grew up in that world. My parents are super healthy. So they really kind of promoted fruits and vegetables and fresh foods all of my life. So I kind of grew up in this world. And then college happened, like everyone. You go to college and you just explore other avenues.
Yes.
And so it wasn't until I got diagnosed and everything that I became officially plant-based, particularly vegetarian focused. I tried different avenues. Veganism was something I did for a while, but because of my health issues and things like that, I had to kind of switch up my diet. But I've been plant-based for pretty much all my life. And I love just like the way you feel when you eat healthier. That's where I kind of preach to my community, in terms of, if you want to feel better, eat foods that will help you thrive and not just survive. And so I think that that's kind of my understanding of how to nourish yourself and how to really make sure you get the most out of your life is by putting in what you want to get out of it. So I'm definitely plant-based, and I would love to be a strong advocate for the vegan community. I just, because of my health own reasons, I am not. So, yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, it's always good to hear everyone's background story because we're all walking down different paths. And I think the idea is that we always want to bring on guests that understand the vegan community, understand,
Mhm.
like you said, the plant based path, and also the importance of being on that path, the importance of what we put in our bodies, the importance of the choices that we make. So it's really good to have individuals like yourself on our show to not only give people kind of background on individuals who've been mostly plant-based their entire life
Mhm.
because it's a very different experience. For someone like myself, I haven't always been vegan. I went vegan in 2005, but since then I've been vegan, but I wasn't always vegan. So understanding and hearing people's journeys, I think is really important and think it's really key. So
Yeah.
maybe as we, oops, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was
You're
agreeing with
going to
you.
jump in there. So maybe as we continue forward, we've talked a little bit about your kind of background.
Mhm.
Let's talk about the business side. Let's talk about the business that you started. Maybe rewind the clock for us a little bit and give us an idea of what you were doing before you started the Fake Vegan
Sure.
and what your kind of reason being was to transition from your previous roles or previous job into the current one.
Sure. So I started out, well, I went to undergrad at Howard University. I have to give my HBCU a shout out. Howard University is where I studied fashion merchandising, and then I went into corporate retail for 8 years. Then I went on to study business at Columbia University while I was living in New York. And so that's kind of my background. And I really was focused on finance while I was working in corporate retail. And it was great. I think that it just wasn't the lifestyle for me. And when I say that, I mean working really long hours. Retail is very, it fluctuates based off of the market. So, you kind of have to be really quick to react. And it brought a lot of stress for me personally. I had always had this, like, in my early 20s, I had this really weird like stomach issues, and like I couldn't really figure out what was going on. I grew up with really severe allergies, so I kind of equated it to that. But what I quickly learned is that through the stress of my job, it was actually hurting me personally and physically. And so once officially so I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Once I got that official diagnosis, it was very clear to me that the westernized medicine, traditional route was not for me. And I had to start exploring other avenues. So that's kind of when I started learning about like the holistic medicine. So this is all kind of simultaneously happening. So I was going to work, 7 to 7, what it felt like,
Mhm.
and really not creating a sustainable lifestyle for myself. And it was literally just making me sicker. And so that's kind of my business side, was really kind of gaining that knowledge set and understanding. While I was grateful for the opportunities that I was given, I was living in a city where it was, high traffic, a lot of people, a lot of energy transference when you walk outside in general. But then on top of that, I had a lot of stress from just working. And then on top of that, I had some health issues. So it was a kind of a layered piece. But for my business side, I definitely gained all of my knowledge from the high level positions that I held in the corporate retail world. So I'm thankful for the experience that I had, because it helped me create the Fake Vegan and what it has become today. So,
And
yeah.
I think that's important. I think a lot of times people forget how important it is to leverage our experience. When
Hmm.
we start businesses, when we start ideas, these are great, green pastures or blank sheets of paper you can start with. But
Yeah.
when you can leverage that past experience and pull it in, it can be really an amazing kind of jumping point for a business, because you can use the systems that you learned. And also, you can kind of cherry pick the best of the best and then incorporate that into the business that you dream of, as well as incorporate into a business that is truly built around helping people. And I think that's the key,
Right.
is that some businesses are, that's not their number one or their number two on the list. And I think a lot of times with many of us who are creating our passion-based businesses, or creating businesses, the things we really want to contribute to the world, contribute to our communities. And if we
Yeah.
can use the skills from corporate America, but couple that with our desire to help and make impact, I think it just makes an amazing like recipe for a great business.
For sure. And I think that you have to create an exit strategy, right? Like, it's not something that you just get up and start a business tomorrow and hope to live off of that business. There's, your profitability doesn't gain right away, So it was definitely a learning experience. And I was very intentional about when I left corporate America, because I wanted to, like you said, be a sponge and kind of soak up this information and really kind of get my feet under me and get some kind of gaining and fellowship, and just really a knowledge set before I just set foot off into the world of entrepreneurship, which can be very scary. But
Yeah.
I think that if your purpose outweighs your pain, then you definitely will succeed in anything that you do. So,
Perfect. Well, while we're talking about the business, talking about since you've been in business for a while, do you
yeah.
want to give us a little perspective? What it's like a day in your shoes, what it's like, and let's go pre-COVID
Okay.
pandemic and all that. Let's give everyone kind of a sense of what your day was like, what you would do, how you were spending time with your customers or clients, and then give me the contrast of what kind of happened post COVID, and then we'll get into eventually how you pivoted as well.
Sure. So the Fake Vegan, like I said, mentioned, it started 3 years ago. And it was really out of necessity. Like I said, I was really sick at the time, and was looking at alternative holistic healing methods. And so it kind of started out of this idea of a lot of my Instagram friends and followers were, watch the documentary What the Health and on Netflix, and everybody became a vegan. Like literally instantly after that, everybody became vegan. They were like, I'm gonna do this. This is my life commitment. And it while it was admirable, it wasn't sustainable. And so I remember thinking to myself, how do I help people create sustainable holistic health? And what does that look like? And so I started the Fake Vegan as a blog and just a resource base for people to come and kind of map my experience. And so I was at the time really deep into traditional Chinese medicine. I was seeing a holistic doctor for my personal needs. And then out of that, I kind of just my knowledge set expanded as I was traveling the world and things like that. I picked up on different holistic healing methods that were working for me. And it was crazy because I remember being like, I paid this much money for treatments when I literally could have been eating like this.
Yeah.
And I feel 10 times better doing this, and I feel wiped out when I'm doing this. So it was really kind of scales like leveled in front of me. And it, at one point, my holistic medicine doctor was like, listen, you have to either make a decision. Like, you can't live a split life anymore. You have to either really commit yourself to a holistic healing, or you can just go off and you'll be feeling this way for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And I was diagnosed in my early 20s. So I'm like, 22, 23, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm healthy. Like, all
Yeah.
my friends, we can go out and we can have fun. And it wasn't the case for me. My body just does not metabolize stress the way that others do. And so for me, the earlier part of the Fake Vegan really was just kind of me journaling and in a really real way of just helping myself get through it, and sharing the knowledge that I was gaining over time. Because I was really, I became really frustrated because I was like, yo, like this is really easy information. By doing X, Y, and Z, I'm feeling so much better and I'm not spending thousands of dollars. And I think that it's particularly in the Black community, we don't get that resource set.
Yes.
And it's so unfortunate, but I really wanted it's really what propelled me to start the Fake Vegan and really grow it to what it was. So the first 2 years was really based off of just this idea of making sure people heal. So I just kind of posted on the blog and it was what it was. Over the last, I would say, year and a half, it has grown into something that I never expected it to. So I've done wealthy tours. I've, gone and done public speaking events. But what I really am proud of is my one-on-one work with my clients. So I started to take clients about a year ago and just really doing internal work with them, either emotional mapping and really kind of helping them understand like the mental piece of it. And while I'm a person who goes to therapy regularly, I preach that to everybody. And I want everybody to know that the real connection between your mind body is something serious. And so I kind of do that piece with my one-on-one clients. And then obviously I went ahead and got certified as a nutritionist, and I've been doing that, excuse me, work with my one-on-one clients as well. So really kind of piecing together what you fuel yourself with also will help your mind, will help your body, and will help your spirit at the end of the day. So the cyclical ecosystem of healing. And so now the Fake Vegan is, we do the one-on-one client piece, but then I also have started working with corporations to incorporate wellness into the workplace. So how do you envision people, wanting to be at a company and feeling very whole and feeling very loved and cared for in a real sustainable way? And how do corporations kind of create that? So those are the two big pieces that I'm super proud of right now.
Oh, great. It
Yeah.
sounds like a really not only wonderful just kind of journey that you've been on and how you've developed over time your business, which
Yeah.
a lot of times I think people think that, day one, you have all these products and services, you have all
Hmm.
these things built. I really like how you built your business more in a kind of natural, organic fashion. But I also like that your business has multiple channels. One thing that I talk about a lot is telling
Yeah.
people to build those multiple revenue streams, build those opportunities. So not only can you drive impact in multiple ways, you can also drive revenue in different ways to create that sustainable business. I also like that you're talking about the mental piece. Let's talk maybe a little bit more about it if you don't mind,
Sure.
because I think for not just um, everyone out there, even specifically entrepreneurs, we forget how much our mental space really needs some attention, needs some
Mhm.
love. We think that we just have to push, push, push through. And we forget that we really have to take care of ourselves and make sure, our minds are ready. And we don't get into a scenario where we're the cause of stress. We're the
Right.
entrepreneur, but then we're the one that's causing
Right.
this unhealthy balance in ourselves. I don't know if you have any advice or recommendations, maybe for anyone who is watching, who's an entrepreneur, how they can maybe make sure they're doing that mental checkup and what they should be doing to make sure they stay healthy.
Yeah, for sure. So, one of the exercises that I do often with my clients and kind of help them gain a better understanding of easy tools and techniques is breath work. Breath work is like incredible. And I think it really kind of shifts the narrative of what we have in this country as mental health being a disability or a crutch maybe
Mhm.
for you being able to not get through your day, but it's actually a real thing. And I think that it's all health issues really kind of start with your brain, and your cerebral cortex and all of those important pieces. So one of the things that I work on with the breath work is, a lot of people say I can't go to sleep at night, or and my brain is all over the place. I'm like, okay, well, are you breathing? And not just like breathing in
To stay
general, but like
alive. Yeah.
yeah, like intentionally breathing and focusing. By just creating intentional breath, it really kind of manifests the oxygen, obviously, to your brain, and all of those chemical functions are, able to be released. And toxins are being able to release in your muscles and all of those great things. But to just even start, the fact that you're able to, it's a free technique. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to pay for anything. It's a function that your body already does. I think that is such a key point, particularly in times where we are, especially Black people in this country, are triggered on a daily basis.
Yes.
You can have that ability to take that breath and take that moment. It doesn't take a long time. It doesn't take super advanced techniques. It just takes a couple minutes a day, and beginning of your day or at the end of the day or whenever you're triggered, it really kind of helps you kind of maneuver that piece, right? So those are the things that I've kind of been preaching to my clients as of recently, is breath work will really kind of help you. And a lot of people, I think, want to get to that meditation level. And it took me years to get to meditation, and I didn't do it right for a long time. But I think meditation can be a little bit uneasy for a lot of people, and kind of like ambiguous for people to grasp, right? So if you
Mhm.
tell a stressed out person, okay, sit in this room for 5 minutes and meditate, and they literally think about nothing, they're going to start thinking about everything that
Everything.
their
Yeah.
day is filled with, right? So
Mhm.
by doing breath work, it is the gateway to meditation. So if you are, wanting to deepen your thought process and really just kind of finding a place of release, I always tell people start with breath work first, and then from there grow yourself. What I do have on my website and on my Instagram, if you go into the link in my bio, I have a free breathwork resource. So you can just go in and then download it, and it has different breathworks for different types of emotions. So if you have anxiety, there's a different breathwork for that. If you're feeling overwhelmed, there's breathwork for that. And if you need more sleep at night, I know a lot of us during this time have our sleep, and myself included, has
Yeah.
been thrown off. because we're continuously looking at our phones and screens, and we're stuck in the house and we're not getting out as much. So breath work is a great way to kind of calm yourself down, and your nervous system will be supported by doing this. So that's one of the free things I tell people to do all the time.
Yeah, and I love breath work because it's something you can do also in the moment.
Yep.
It's something you can make a practice, but when you are starting to feel that anxiety or you're
Yes.
starting to somehow, like you said, get triggered, especially this day and age. I'm personally having such a hard time reading the news
Hmm.
because not only is there so much video footage of just police brutality that just, goes into my soul, it
Yeah.
feels like that sometimes I need something to ground me back again,
Right.
to not let me just become that ball of emotion and that response to it. And I really like things like breath work as a tool to help with that. I find
Yeah.
it to be really, really helpful to use when we're being triggered.
For sure. And I think as entrepreneurs, we do a lot for others in general, just making sure our businesses are staying afloat. And so to take a moment to just focus on yourself, even if it's 5 minutes, will help you help others, right? The better, the more whole you are holistically, you will be your community. And without that, your work will be for naught. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's touch on one other thing you brought up was
Yeah.
really kind of the conversion of, this holistic health idea and our lovely, wonderful Black community.
Mhm.
How that information is just not as readily available,
Yeah.
is not sometimes giving its opportunity to be voiced, even in communities that are advocates, for others, it's not talked about. Sometimes we're not seen. There's a
Mhm.
lot of, you know, opportunity, I would say, if I put it in a very positive light. But I'd love to just talk about if you have any personal feelings about where and what you think we should all be doing next. How do we make sure that this information is getting to our own communities? How do we pass this information out? How do we make sure people understand that there's an opportunity for us to really make sure we're looking at our health holistically so that our community is not, continuing to be plagued by a lot of diseases that are, in some cases, reversible?
Yeah. So a lot of that I think goes back to just the piece of the diseases being present in our community goes back to the lot of trauma and the emotional state that we undergo as Black people in this country. And a lot of times you don't even realize it. The microaggressions of the world happen, but that actually is energy that is affecting you, even though you don't react to it, does not mean that it doesn't affect you. So I think that it's important for people of color and Black people specifically is to really remember that you have to protect yourself. And I think by doing that, I think for me, rewind a little bit, but I think for me, when I started doing that, it really kind of helped me gain an understanding of what it is to really thrive, and not just exist or live. And when I say thrive, I mean you get up every single day and whatever you're doing, you're actively present. There's a difference between being present, you can be present in a space but not listen, or being actively present in your life. And I want people of color and Black people in particular to really come away with that. So I did a lot of work when I first got diagnosed of seeking out different, because it was really out of necessity for me. So I was like digging under every rock. I was like, what can I do to feel better? I can't live like this. And I was so young at the time. I really had to go out, and Google was my best friend. And I talked to different people. I researched everything under the sun. But what was great about where we are now in a space is that technology has even propelled us even further to be able to reach our audiences, right? So you can go on Instagram and find 5 different people you want to really follow and focus on, so that your narrative, as a person of color in this country, is not only being told, but it's being transformed. How do you make sure that you maintain your light personally while spreading it to others? So I encourage people to always like go use Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, follow different mainstreams that help you really thrive. And while you can't necessarily protect yourself from all of the triggering images, you can surround yourself with a community that will help you heal at the end of the day. So really be conscious about the information that you intake, right? So take those news breaks. So if we want to stay informed, maybe only do it for 10 minutes a day, if that, and then log off. It's
Yeah.
okay. I think in terms of health, in terms of nutrition, I would say really kind of take a step back and understand what foods will really make me thrive, what foods will really make me feel better, versus the ones that I know that aren't really, they're all processed foods. I always say a good rule of thumb, if it didn't grow from the ground, it's probably not that healthy, right? And I think a lot of people, a lot of my clients tell me, but I don't want to give up X, Y, and Z. I'm like, but that's where you have to switch the mentality piece,
Yeah.
right? That is where you have to start thinking you're not actually giving this up, you're actually switching it out for something greater. So I think that for as a person, a woman of color, and an entrepreneur, I think that it's very important for us to continue that narrative to people, as particularly Black people. And then as we are going out and hitting these streets and fighting for our rights, I think it's really important to find somebody that can be your haven, right? So I have a therapist. A lot of people have been seeking out therapy and things like that, but sometimes if you can't afford a therapist or whatever, find a person that has the mental space. First ask them, do you have mental space for me to share with you, what I'm going through today?
Yeah.
And if they do, have that conversation. And even sometimes just getting it out will allow you to do a self-reflection. So those are kind of like some tools and techniques that we can utilize as a Black community to really kind of create sustainable holistic health. And it's not going to be easy, but you're I always say that you're undoing a DNA. You're changing your DNA by eating healthier and drinking water on a daily basis. You are changing your DNA, and that's going to affect other people down the line, your ancestors and things like that. So yeah, I think it's a lot of people can do as Black ownership, but I think that at the end of the day, if we come together as a community, we can really heal.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
love the not only focus on healing and the idea that we have to not only be aware, speak out, take action, but we have to heal. We have
Hmm.
to kind of move through some of these moments and figure out who and what we want to be on the other side.
Hmm.
And I also like what you're saying around how important it is to not only, have a community, have support, follow people that you want to hear from to make sure your feed is sending the right message to you. I think a lot of times people sometimes will mismanage their social media
Yeah.
feeds and they have content and data that's coming at them that doesn't necessarily
Hmm.
help them. It's just either all trigger based or fired up or, it's not putting in the positive energy that they would need to kind of get through a lot of these times. And I also
Hmm.
like what you were saying about, if you are going to have someone, and I really think as entrepreneurs, we all need a person to talk to. We need a person that we
Yeah.
can vent a little bit with. We need a person that can kind of hear our story. So anyone out there that either is entrepreneurs listening, becoming an entrepreneur, if you don't have that person, please
Yeah.
make sure you do it. But I also like that you said, ask them if they have the mental space to do it. Because I think
Yep.
sometimes we forget that, and I don't know your thoughts on there. I think sometimes we forget that we have to find someone who really can help us with our baggage. We kind of
Yep.
show up with all our bags and then we just
Yep.
put it down in front of them. And that person's like, I already got 50 bags.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with all yours right now? So
Exactly.
we got to find the right person who can truly help us, with what we're going through and they have the space
Yeah.
for it.
And I think like you have to almost have like maybe three or four different Well, you know what I mean? You definitely have to create a tribe,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, you never really know what other people are going through. And people don't always aren't as transparent. And so sometimes I know I'll ask my friend, I'm like, do you have the mental space? And I can tell right away she doesn't.
Hmm.
So I have to switch gears, you know what I mean? And so you want to be able to find someone where you can release, but you also definitely don't want to leave your bags just on top of them for them to then have to find another person to get. It's like the traveling bags, right? Like you have to figure out, how do you unpack your bag without becoming a hoarder in somebody else's house.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think that is so key and
Yeah.
so important for people to realize. So, as
Yeah, for
we're
sure.
wrapping up today's interview, I don't want to keep you too long,
Yeah.
but I've been really enjoying not only our time together, but a lot of the advice that you've been offering. Any other thoughts on, especially the business side, meaning as we're all kind of been feeling out the rest of what 2020 is going to be like, what we think the rest of our year may be like, and especially since many of us are kind of digesting the sobering news that, we're not all going to just get back to the way it was
Hmm.
so quickly, that this may, we may be in some of these spaces for a while. Do you have some recommendations or any thoughts on what you're planning to do for the rest of 2020 from a business standpoint or entrepreneur standpoint to kind
Sure.
of keep your business afloat, keep your business going, and also how you may have to continue to pivot as we navigate all these waters?
Yeah, I think you said it right there, pivot, right? So I actually left my corporate career back in March, right? But like literally a week before New York shut down, I moved back to the DC area where I'm originally from. And my plan was I was going to travel the world this year. I was like, I'm going to take a year. I'm going to travel the world. I've already had my clients set up virtually. So I'm going to just go and start in Asia and then work my way around the world.
Wow.
Well, quickly that changed. And it was hard for me as a business owner, because I really wanted my purpose for travel was really to increase my knowledge set of holistic healing. I was going to do a lot of different certifications and things, and studying under experts, because I don't think I'm an expert, but other experts that in areas that I want to grow my knowledge set. And so that was my purpose for traveling. And so when it didn't happen, that disappointment set in. And so I think there was a lot of, for me personally, a lot of emotional suppression. So what I had to do was work through as a business owner, instead of suppressing my emotions. So emotional suppression just means that you take the emotion of frustration, which was what my feeling was, and you really kind of dig it down and just become super productive. Well, the work that I was doing while it was productive, we have this idea that productivity means movement, and that's not really what it means. But while I felt like I was being productive, I was actually hurting myself. So I took some time off and took a couple weeks there to just create space between myself and my business. And I didn't take as many clients, and I kind of shut everything down and just took some weeks off for myself. Now I'm thankful enough that I was able to do that and still sustain my business.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't have that option, but I would say that going forward in 2020, being able to pivot is very necessary, but pivoting in a space where you are being productive, in the sense that it will help your business and not just being busy, right? So you want to find a space and a balance of, I want to be productive, I want to be meaningful to my business, and not just create to create. And what does that really look like? Because that's when the sustainability of your business, I think, shines through more than anything else. And when I took those weeks off, I started back and taking more clients, and my business started exploding. And so now I'm like, okay, I'm in a great space, and my profitability is coming up and things like that. So it's been fortunate enough that it was a quick turnaround for me. But I would say to other business owners, be patient with yourself as a business owner. It's going to be not just for the rest of this year, but I would think for a couple years for our economy to kind of really recover and get back to the way it was. So I would say focus on doing meaningful work for the rest of the year and even years after. Meaningful work in the sense that you might not take as many clients, but you will be giving them your best self, right? So that you can preserve yourself. And just do your research. I think that there's other avenues that you can help generate your own profit without actually having to, go into work or, do, the face-to-face aspect. So get creative in that virtual sense. But I mean, we're going to have to be going through this for several months now. And just the adaptability and the sustainability piece of it is very, very important for business owners. So I'm thankful to have been able to make that adjustment quickly. But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting rest of the year for sure.
Yes, it definitely is going to be interesting. We'll
Yeah.
see how things go, but definitely, I think, as you said it perfectly, as we focus on meaningful work, meaningful activities, and being really showing up for the clients that we do have, I think is really key. So
Hmm.
thank you so much for spending a
Yeah,
little bit of time with me
of
today.
course. Thank
And
you for having me.
absolutely. And let's, before we wrap up, do you want to give everyone your social media handles as well as your
Yeah.
website?
Yeah. So on the Instagram as @_ the fake vegan. That's kind of where I play most of the time. But I also have my website. It's going to be relaunching next Friday. So it's at www.thefakevegan.com. In the meantime, if you're trying to reach me and you don't have either of those avenues, feel free to email me. It is the fake vegan #2 @gmail.com.
Perfect. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much once
Thank you
again.
so much.
This is great having you here. Thank you, everyone who watched us live. And if you're watching this as a replay, as always, we love comments and questions. We always follow up on all the different platforms. So don't worry about where you're listening, whether this is watching us or on our podcast. Please let us know what you think. Please let us know if you agree. Please let us know if we've helped you, inspired you, or in any way maybe helped you have a better day. Always subscribe to our platforms, whether you're on the podcast or you're in social media. And also, if you enjoyed today's interview, please hit up that like button. Let us know. We always love to get that positive reinforcement. So, thank you, everyone, for joining us. We're going to wrap up today. Thank you so much, Katy, for being with
Thank you
us
for
today.
having me. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.